Hello and welcome to the Sky Blue Times YouTube channel. Today, a little bit of a shorter video as I just wanted to run through the team as we look ahead to next season, some of the homegrown issues that we're looking at, the players that do need to be moved on, that we haven't seen moved on yet ahead of the new season, and just talk through some of my ideas around the squad and the players that we have coming in, players that we need to move on, and so forth. So as you can see down below with this squad that I've laid out, I've jumped the gun a little bit there on James Trafford coming in as a homegrown goalkeeper. Seems like from the reports, in my opinion, that it's heading in the direction of Edison Lima to Galatasaray and James Trafford to then be lined up as his replacement as the future number one of Manchester City. An exciting move, one that comes with some risks, that does come with a lot of development for him to make in different areas, but still a tremendous keeper coming in at a very good young age with plenty of experience. So I'm very excited to see him make his return to Manchester City. And then I've included the rest of the team here. As you can see, Ruben Diaz, Joshua Vardiol, the centre-back partnership we expect to see for the majority of the season. Kusanov and Vitor Hayes that I've kept in there. Hayes, there's been a couple reports coming out of Brazil that he intends to stay this season, to not go out on loan. So that's why I've just included him here for the time being, unless something does change and we hear something more directly from Manchester City. And then, we've got Aitan Nouri as our first choice left-back. Nico O'Reilly as the backup left-back, who can then also play minutes in midfield. Space there for a backup left centre-back. I've left both of the right-back slots free, which we'll get to a little bit later on. Rodri and Nico Gonzalez as your two options as the number 6. Nico learning the role. Could also play as a number 8. Oscar Bob out on the right wing with Savinho. You've got Jeremy Doku out on the left wing. Also Omar Mamouche can play in that role, as well as being the backup striker to Erling Haaland. We saw him do very well at points last season, and then at the Club World Cup I thought he did a very good job when he was coming in as a backup for the most part across those games. Tijani Reinders you'd expect to be the first choice number 8. Bernardo Silva, second choice number 8. If they're playing 3-man deep kind of midfield, then you'd see more of Bernardo there, but I expect him to play mostly in midfield, if not entirely. Rico Lewis then as an option that could play, obviously at right back. He can play in midfield. Expect him to stay in and around the team, being homegrown as well as he gets to this season. Useful player across a load of positions, whether it is playing in the pockets, whether it's a little bit deeper alongside Rodri or Nico, whether it is playing as a right back in certain games. Of course, I know people will be a little bit sceptical of him at right back, but it's more so the right games. I think he can be useful in that position, as we did see over the course of last season. There were plenty of good performances from him at right back, as well as the ones where he wasn't ideal, and that speaks to why we're looking for a starting right back. And then when we move over to the list of the non-homegrown players, I've got Mateus Nunes, who perhaps if an offer comes in, City would probably be open to letting him go. If they're not able to sign a right back, then you'd expect him to be the first choice right back as it stands, and you would keep him. But I've just left him out for the purpose of looking at what the homegrown numbers are in comparison to the players that we do have and the players that we would need to move on. Claudio Echeverri, I expect to go on once he is back to full fitness and find himself a loan spell. Plenty of options for him. Obviously, he got linked to the one at Lyon. Now that their situation's cleared up, they have a better idea of him possibly going out on loan and figuring that step out. But I do think he would benefit a lot from that loan spell. Somebody that needs to improve that fitness across 90 minutes and play back-to-back games. But the ability is definitely there, the desire, the work rate. Even in just the 45 minutes he played in the Club World Cup, he was one of the best, always making movements to get himself open to receive the ball, up there with the likes of Phil Foden in the number of runs that he was making off the ball to receive it. So very promising player, but needs to get a good amount of minutes, improve his fitness and play elsewhere. I would say so, especially when you've got Phil Foden and Ryan Cherki in the team that are going to play predominantly in the attacking midfield positions. And then I've also got on that list Gundogan, Akanji, Kovacic and Sfera Nippon. The latter, Nippon, I expect to go out on loan. He's meant to be training with the first team for their pre-season games coming up. And then after that, I would guess that they would figure out what that next loan spell is going to be. His dad gave some quotes earlier today that alluded to them having a good idea of the different options, and if not, it was quite close to the club that they would go to. But he's going to have that experience in and around the first team, then go out on loan, which I think is good for him to make sure he's kind of bedded in and gets a feel for what the first team looks like at the club. A player that by the time we get to next summer, if he has a successful loan spell, can absolutely come into the team and play more minutes, depending on the futures of Bernardo Silva, Rico Lewis, and some other players next season in the midfield areas. And then from there, you're looking at Gundogan, Akanji, Kovacic as players you'd probably like to move on this summer, and you're kind of a bit stuck with working that out. Now, it's important to remember that these players are obviously going to stay. They want to stay, and they've got contracts still left to run down. They've still got money on those contracts. They're not going to be able to want to go and lose that money straight away as well. So when you're trying to find the right destination for them, for somebody that can pay those wages and how they get paid on the back end with City with a contract situation, is not an easy thing to do, as you're seeing with Edison finding the right place for him in Turkey with the wages, and then City have then in that kind of discussion on getting the right fee and what's acceptable. And with certain players, you'd expect them to make that move quite easy, but making sure you line up those fees on those kind of deals, senior players, high wages, is not an easy thing to do, especially when you as a club want to get rid of them. So yeah, I expect those kind of deals to run on for a fair bit. Those are the players that I would expect to go. So Echeverri out on loan, Nipan to go out on loan as well. You're then looking ideally to clear off Gundogan, Akanji and Kovacic. And then Matheus Nunes hinges on what you want to do with the right back situation and the left centre back situation. So let's say we move on Gundogan, Akanji, Kovacic, loan the two young players out. That means my only non-homegrown player I'm adding is Matheus Nunes. At the moment I've got 15, so 2 slots are available. So Matheus Nunes can take that. And then I have space for one non-homegrown player to come in, and that gives City the option to bring in a non-homegrown right back, provided they can clear those other players off. So they still have that space. So before, when we were looking at Tino Livramento, you needed to buy that player because you still had Edison and Ortega, whereas Trafford coming in frees up a non-homegrown spot for you to be able to make that move, provided that you loan those 2 young players out and you can shift on the older players. Then when it comes to the backup left centre-back, I would pick Nathan Ake from our homegrown list. I think if you're knowing that Josh Gvardiol is going to play predominantly the minutes as a left centre-back, that should help him a lot with the kind of like physical load moving inside compared to when he was playing at left back and getting up and down the touchline and being a more marauding left back. So I think that will help him manage that kind of fitness. Obviously having Kusanov and Vitor Hayes means when it comes to cup games and certain games throughout the season in the Premier League and the Champions League, you've got options there that can rotate and help him out. And then you've got Nathan Ake there as your kind of senior left centre-back, playing him reduced minutes, so you're not straining him too much playing at left back. And with those reduced minutes, you're not having this such high expectation for him to come in and play 3,000 plus minutes, as he struggled with injury the last couple of seasons. Last season in particular was an outlier, in my opinion, in terms of the number of games he missed through injury. So I expect him to have better availability next season. And part of that injury kind of problems that he did face is due to the fact that several centre-backs had injury. So then when it comes to making sure you're bringing those players back off the massage table, back into recovery sessions, and so on before you get to 90 minutes. And then when you get to 90 minutes, you're able to rest them and use another centre-back instead of running them again for 90 minutes. Those are things that he dealt with across last season, whereas this next season coming up, I think they'll be better prepared to be able to manage all the fitness level of their defenders. James McAtee, 1 year left. We're seeing that he's going around to Germany and other places. We've seen reports today talking about him not wanting to go out the UK, wants to stay in the Premier League. So I'd expect Nottingham Forest and potentially another couple Premier League clubs to come in, and City will ideally want to get something close to Cole Palmer's 40 million mark. Absolutely worth it, in my opinion, for those kind of clubs. But it'll be interesting to see how that negotiation goes down. Very talented player, but from what it looks like over the course of last season, not somebody that's going to break in the attacking midfield spots ahead of Phil Foden and Cherki. Not somebody that's going to come in the wide positions ahead of the likes of Bob, Savino and Doku, Marmoush. So it makes sense for him to move on. And they do have plenty of homegrown options now, so it's not like they're desperately in need of him staying for that. Calvin Phillips, Jack Grealish are in a similar boat in terms of you find them a way out regardless of how that is. So probably unlikely to have a direct sale for a good fee for Manchester City, but the two of them should be able to find loan spells that continue to run down that contract, and best case you get a loan to buy situation or a loan with an option to buy, so that you can facilitate that sale provided that the two of those players do perform. But that'll probably run late into the window before we find a spot for them out on loan. And then Nathan Ake, I mentioned I would keep. John Stones, I think is good time to move him on. Not playing any minutes in the Club World Cup points to that. Perhaps could have been because they want to just make sure he just trains to see what his fitness level is rather than run him into the games. But to me, it kind of come across as a message that it's time for him to move on. This is somebody that over the last 8 seasons in the Premier League, only 3 times has he played more than 1,500 Premier League minutes. And in the last 2, he was below 1,500 Premier League minutes. I think around 1,100-ish for 23-24, and then around, I think it was like 600 to 800 minutes last season. So somebody that across their career and in the most recent seasons has proven to be very unreliable with their fitness in comparison to other players. That's why I would keep Nathan Ake as that homegrown option. I think for teams like Everton, that kind of spot mid-table in the Premier League, playing once a week, John Stones could be a very valuable player to come in, support a team that would be quite young and refreshed at Everton, as well as at some other similar Premier League clubs that are just playing every week. I think that would be a great option for him, and would help him ahead of the next season with trying to get in the squad to play for England. If he's fit, if he's playing regularly, then I think he's going to the World Cup with England. So yeah, that's pretty much the way I've done it. Your totals you see over here, obviously the key with the ages as lined out, underscored for homegrown in blue, the Lisby and the 21s for O'Reilly here in the red. I've gone off the Champions League rule because they're more strict than the Premier League rules, and I don't foresee City wanting 2 different squads, one for the Premier League, one for the Champions League, and having a situation where you've got to tell players that you're in a Premier League team, you can play Premier League minutes, but you're not going to play in the Champions League at all. I don't think they'll want that situation that they had last season, which was due to the January transfer window. But to have those kind of mixture of the squads, I don't think it's something City will want. So as you can see there, 8 homegrown spots, 17 non-homegrown spots. Your B list is unlimited, but only O'Reilly. In this makeup, will count on that, predominantly filled by players that are in the academy that have signed professional contracts. And then total squad size, we're moving the B list is 20 at the moment. So you'd expect if we're bringing in 2 right backs and a backup left back, so let's say it's Nunes, a non-homegrown right back, and Nathan Ake, then that brings you up to 23 plus the one of Nico O'Reilly in the squad. So still that nice tight squad, good hierarchy across them, lots of attacking players, lots of good defenders that can stay fit. Lots of good options across the team, in my opinion. Your Rodri issue of having a backup is solved with Nico Gonzalez. Your Haaland issue of not having a backup to rest and rotate him well throughout the season is solved with Omar Marmoush. 2 of the biggest problems that we had from last season going into it that I wanted Viana to solve, and we have those 2 options that have come there from the January transfer window. So yeah, I think they're in a good spot, provided that they make the changes at the right back. Pick the right left centre back that they want to keep, and then it's all about the outgoings, making sure you clear off players, loan out the talented young players that you do have, and doing what you can to move on to some degree the likes of Calvin Phillips and Jack Grealish, and then just final point, all the ages that you see on this graphic are at the time of being the 16th of August, which is the first Premier League match for Manchester City. Is the way that I've done this list, just so you know. But yeah, apart from that, please let me know your thoughts down below. Is there something that I missed out that you'd like to see me mention in a future video, or you wanted to ask me a question about? I'll jump in the replies and get back to you on it. Otherwise, please make sure you support the channel, support the video by liking it. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll be back with plenty more content this week.